Good afternoon. I'm Criselda Lewis from SABC Television. Clearly, Prof, what seems to be the problem at the moment is that students are saying they want you to go and address them. They're saying that it's pointless speaking to the media behind closed doors and not having a conversation with them. Secondly, what plans does the university have? Because judging by what we saw outside, unless insourcing happens tomorrow, which you are saying is impossible, you're going to be faced with a situation like this, and tons of university students who perhaps want to write the exam might face serious challenges, because the threats that are being made there is that there will be absolutely no examinations here.
Any other questions?
Hello, I'm Mpho Letlape from AN7.
Sorry, what's your name?
Mketi.
Okay.
Okay, I'm just curious on the issue of the talks you had with Nahawu. The workers outside are saying that they feel that they were not adequately represented by these workers. So we're trying to find, when are you going to address these workers, or will you still communicate with Nahawu and they will then pass on the message to them, or what's the plan there?
Tidi Madia from Power News. I just want to find out, during the Fees Must Fall protest, well, the part until we reached the agreement with the president, there was an agreement around disciplinary action not being taken. What does the university plan to do about protests this particular week over the past few days? Will it be taking disciplinary action against particular students and support staff, or will it not? Thank you.
Just another question and we'll go for another round.
Okay, great.
Oh,
yeah, go ahead.
Rebecca from Jacaranda FM. Just to kind of catch up, you've briefly gone over what your plans are now. You're saying that tomorrow and Saturday are big days in terms of examinations. What are you going to do? Are you locking things up? People are breaking through barriers. What are you going to effectively do to try and ensure that tomorrow's stuff is not disrupted? And there are obviously people on campus. We can see people moving around down here. So, will we be allowed in and out? Are you going to monitor who's coming in to write and who's here to cause trouble?
All right.
We can answer these 4 questions and then we'll go for another round.
Well, thanks, Criselda. If we could kick off with your important question. One of the things that we have established in the 10 years of the University of Johannesburg's short life is a tradition of engagement, a tradition of conversation, a tradition of dialogue. That dialogue occurs on each one of our 4 campuses. And it continues. In fact, just last month, we had dialogues with students separately, with staff, on Soweto campus, on this campus, on our Auckland Park Bunting Road campus. So we have a strong tradition of conversation and dialogue with staff and students, but we also have a strong tradition of dialogue and conversation with representative bodies. So Nahawu, but not just Nahawu, SAPTU and Mpho as the other recognized labour unions in the institution, the same with the UJSRC. And so we have a strong tradition of those conversations. 10 days ago, when we sat down with the UJSRC, we also sat down with Nahawu. But not just that, we also invited a group of so-called independent students who represented another bigger group of so-called independent students into conversation. We spent 5 hours behind locked doors thrashing out a joint statement, right? And that joint statement tackled the issues, or at least we thought it has tackled the issues, it's addressed the issues. Subsequent to that, we issued 3 more statements, reaffirming our intense commitment, reaffirming our deep understanding of the impact of outsourcing, and recognizing that clearly we've made a mistake. Not just UJ, but many of our institutions have made a mistake by outsourcing and consequently causing significant impacts upon the lives of the very people who clean up our own rubbish at our institutions. So we've turned that corner here at UJ as well. We've made that commitment. And so today I don't understand what more is being asked for. And so we've made it clear to workers, please, if there is anything else that you demand from us, come with your representatives, and the Vice-Chancellor and the team stand ready to engage them honestly, genuinely, right? But the fact is that outsourcing cannot happen tomorrow. If I look at the list of demands that I've seen on the internet and so on. One of the demands is in-source tomorrow. It's not possible for that to happen. We have to exit our current contractual obligations. At the same time, we have to make sure that we have agreement, broad agreement, as to how we make that happen. And what's the transition in terms of salary or wages, by way of example? How is that wage structured? And how does that wage fit into the university's own wage structure? Yeah? We're not just going to, stick it on in the system. And that is not hard work. It's not difficult work. Yeah? And I'm certain that Ms. Letlape and her team are going to, before we even close the academic year this year, they're going to come with that plan. So it's not going to come even in February. No, the statement says February, no later than February. But I'm convinced that the work that needs to be done will be done by the time we break up in the middle of December of this year. And so I don't have any fear about the issue of outsourcing. In fact, I am deeply committed to it. We are deeply committed to it. So any suggestion that we are not engaged, that we are not listening, I think is the furthest from the truth. The last 2 weeks we have been extremely accommodating, right? But now it is time for exams. Yeah. Today was an important day for us to be able to make that statement, right? If the university was overrun today by 50 cleaning service staff and by 20 students, right? 42,000 undergraduate students, 7,000 postgraduate students, 7,000 staff at the university on our 4 campuses. If we continue to allow this group, notwithstanding the significance and the importance of the issues that they raise, let's put that aside, right? If we allow that to happen, then there will be no exam, there will be no rule of law, or at least in terms of this University of Johannesburg, there will be no rules and regulations complied with in this institution. And so today was important for us to put our foot down, as compassionate as we are, as engaged as we are, as serious-minded as we are about insourcing and about the living standards of our people who work with us and for us. As serious as we are about that, equally serious, 42,000 students will begin their exams tomorrow. And we will make sure that the conditions are created for that to happen. And I want to invite the colleagues, please, if they could speak to that issue.
I would like to add on to what the Vice-Chancellor has shared with you about the issue of dialogue and conversation being a strong tradition at this university. But what we also have to take into consideration is that we have elected bodies, we've got statutory bodies, and we dialogue with those, not excluding the other bodies that emerge as has emerged with independent UJ at the moment. But as we do that, what is happening? On Tuesday, Ms. Mketi, Mr. Frankel, and myself met with no fewer than 3 different groupings that purported to represent the workers. Now, it was 3 different groupings that came at 3 different times that says that we're representing the workers. After we had met with Nehawu, and I have to state here that our workers at this particular university are also represented by Nehawu, in addition to Nehawu being, of the university staff itself, the largest union. So we met with Nehawu and we met with other groupings, and we cannot discount Nehawu and we cannot say we're not going to enter into agreements with Nehawu, because that's the way our legislation say we implement decisions regarding workers at this university. So to come back to you, when we go out there, who are we going to be talking to, giving the different representations, who rubbish each other as they go along? Don't meet with this group, meet with us. Don't meet with this group, meet with us. We met with 3 of them on Tuesday.
Thanks. Maybe Mike, you want to talk to, so tomorrow is a big day.
Yeah, hi. I just wanted to comment on the issues of maintaining the order for the university. I think the Vice-Chancellor has said what he needed to say in respect of there are 42,000 lives that are affected by what happens today and tomorrow. And on that basis, I think it's very important that we make sure that the rule of law pervades. And what we've done is we've stepped up our security from a point of view of the tolerance level, I don't think that you can quite countenance the idea of how bad it is for those 5,000 children locked in a library. We obviously can't open the doors because you'd have it stampeded. Now, that sort of thing we have to stop tomorrow. When we close the library, I would like to point out that there are hundreds of students who are trying to access, whose only form of being able to study is via that library. And the minute that we block that for safety concerns and fire threats, etc., we prohibit those people from progressing towards the final result, which is the valuable final product of both the child and the university, which is, of course, a pass and examination. So I think we've acted with the utmost tolerance up to this point in time, to the extent that it has been questioned by students as to what are we going to do about bringing order. I think the time has come where we've got to say, so far and no further, because we cannot, this university and these children cannot be held, or students cannot be held to ransom by a small group of people wishing to further their own aims, which aims have been addressed more than adequately by the Vice-Chancellor.
So I think Mike has basically made the point that we have spent quite a bit of time gathering our thoughts, not now, in the last 2 weeks, because we knew that crunch time was coming. And so it would have been idle on our part not to prepare for tomorrow. And today was a key test run for us. And you will notice that the campus is quiet, affirming that it is cleaning service workers who are advancing clearly their legitimate project, clearly their legitimate grievances. And that the campus is now quiet. The other campuses are equally quiet, and it is evident that we are making a great effort in order to achieve a calm situation on our campuses. Tomorrow, as you've implied, is a big day for us, and for me also Saturday. Those are the two big days. And we have in our preparations identified key points on our 4 campuses that will require adequate personnel to secure them, whether it is the library or any of the other areas that we have identified. And I'm not going to reveal any, or at least speak any further to that, except to say some 6 areas have been identified, or points, critical points have been identified on each of our 4 campuses, and we will be having a significant increase in respect of on-campus personnel to enable us to create the conditions for exams to take place. And so great effort is going to go again into the preparations for tomorrow. Turning to the issue of disciplinary action. So we have clearly had, during the course of this week, violence perpetrated by both cleaning service staff and by our students, equally so. There have been extraordinary things that have happened. As I said earlier, burning of a guardhouse, burning of university property, the fire service on standby as we speak, threats to burn down the library at this campus. By way of example, can you imagine a fire started with 5,000 young people inside there? And you can imagine behind the scenes the efforts that we have put in place to secure the library, including having, as Mr. Frankel indicated, yesterday, 6-7 times we had to evacuate the library. Keep in mind, these are young people who do not have ideal circumstances at home to study. They don't. These are young people, and it's worth mentioning that the university makes great effort to secure access to this university for children coming from the poorest of the poor. 28% of our first-year class are children, young people, who come from the poorest schools in our nation, so-called Tier 1 or Quintile 1 and Quintile 2 schools. There's no place at home to study. And so we run our libraries 24 hours during this time, preparing for exams and during exams. And so when a student leader makes a threat or incites violence, incites, as they have done, the burning of property, then we have to act. And we have acted. Last night we suspended 4 students already, and more will follow. There's no question about that. One of the saddest days in my life was to suspend the president of the UJSRC, who on tape, on video, has in fact agitated violence. And that clearly is not something which a president of the student body can be countenanced to be making. And so yes, disciplinary action now has it been initiated. The charge sheets have been presented to these young people. Very sad to say so. Charge sheets are also being prepared in respect of staff of the university and other senior students of the university. We cannot take action against the outsourced cleaning service staff. They're not our staff. And we have placed the onus fully on the 2 outsourced companies to say it is your duty, given the violence that have been perpetrated already on this campus, and I should say on the Soweto campus as well, in the last 2 weeks, given the destruction of university property by outsourced cleaning service workers, we expect you to take the necessary action. So there is no way that we can simply turn a blind eye to what has happened in the last 2 weeks. And clearly the action, or we have initiated the action in respect of students, and that will roll out over the next 24 hours to additional students and to members of staff as well. I think that covers the first round.
Great. SABC Radio. You can ask your question.
Good afternoon. My name is Misani Mafrede from SABC Radio News. Yesterday, when I spoke to some of the workers, basically what they said is that they did not know about the university's intentions to insource. That's why they are continuing to protest. Secondly, in the interest of peace, because what they've been calling for, the protesters, is that the VC must come out and address them. In the interest of peace, would the VC consider doing that so that they get addressed by you, so that hopefully the situation can be resolved? The third question is about how the security guards have dealt with the protesters. I have seen at least 3 people who were injured, who were taken to hospital. What does the university have to say with how those protesters have been dealt with? And obviously the protesters are saying the university is using apartheid tactics to silence them. And one of the examples is the violence that we witnessed.
Okay.
Yeah, the fourth one was about the suspension of the president.
Covered.
The SRC, you've answered that.
Hi, my name is Gertrude. I'm from African News Agency.
Gertrude.
I'm from African News Agency. I just want to find out about the other demands that the students have put forward, the stripping of their registration fees. Is Mpho Letlape's team going to deal with that at all?
Okay. You said scrapping of
Debt.
and what was the other issue? Registration?
Registration.
Okay, I'll tackle that, yeah. Thanks.
Stembile.
Tembila, sorry.
Yes. I just want to find out about the media not being allowed in over the past couple of days. There's been a number of them that have been denied access. And then I want clarification on some students that were taken to cells during the protest today. Are these cells on this campus? What are they referring to?
Yeah.
Yeah, just regards to the public security, who are they, and in dealing with what happened here today, there were students that were walking past, that were taking videos, that were attacked viciously. So how do we integrate that?
Okay.
Chriselle, the last one from your side.
Okay. Can I please get clarity on, well, there's the SRC president. Do some of the suspensions include the chairperson? Who are the other three? Who are the other three? And Gertrude, follow up to Gertrude's question, can we also get some clarity, please, on what's the way forward regarding the registration fees and all that?
Okay. Let's begin with workers don't know about UJ's plans to insource. Yesterday morning, Nahawu addressed them. Chapter and verse. Nahawu, chapter and verse, addressed all of the workers. Right? Clarified the statement that we had issued the previous day, the joint statement with Nahawu, in which we jointly agree to insource. Right? It's not some idle idea of insourcing. Right? It is a firm commitment to insourcing, and it's been stated on no less than 4 occasions. Right? If we can't hear the message, it is difficult then to communicate effectively. And so the message has been communicated. I'm not sure what more we can do. Given the violence that we have seen, I can't see any point in standing in front of 50, 150 workers and then being myself the victim of that violence. So I can't see any point in further engagement, because it is evident that what has been communicated is not being heard. It's being communicated but not being heard, right? I think Mikey will address all of the security guards issues, but let me move along to the other questions. Other student demands. If there's one university that goes out of its way to secure access for the poorest in our nation, look no further than the University of Johannesburg. That I can say unequivocally. Consider this: in 2015, not a single student who qualifies for state aid or NSFAS, not a single student who qualifies for NSFAS at UJ has been excluded. And you know why? We've gone out of our way as the university and council to say we're going to cut back on some of our expenses, or not expenses, some of our plans. The university has research ambitions. The university has a deep ambition to escalate and deepen its efforts for technology-assisted learning, where every one of our young people comes to class with a tablet, e-tablet, where their books are downloaded on those tablets. Every child in education and in law, all first years today, right, this year, today, have their books on their iPads, their mini iPads. And the university provided them, each one, with a mini iPad and their books free, downloaded on those mini iPads. We want to expand that. We said this year we can't do it. Why? Because out of our operating budget this year, we have taken an amount of 45 million rands. Just consider that, 45 million rands out of our operating budget, not for research, not for teaching and learning, that we have said we will set aside to help 1,000 of our students, seniors and final years, to have a 50,000 rand, bursary and loan available to them. In addition to that, management of the university have raised 37 million rands. On top of that, we've gone out. We've raised 37 million rands, right? On top of that, we had a UJ fund run and walk in which we raised $1 million with our students, the so-called UJ Future Walk. On top of that, we have a UJ SRC Trust Fund. What is that trust fund for? It's 10 million rands. It helps 3,000 of our young people who cannot afford to pay registration fees to pay their registration fees, right? And to add to that, 3,500 of our students receive a balanced meal twice a day, because we know if we don't provide that, right, they will not be able to flourish. Their ambitions and the ambitions of their families and of their villages will not be met. And so working with Gift of the Givers, we do that. And I can go on down the line. My point is simply that just this year, the university has invested back 120 million rands of the fee increase of 160 million rands implemented in January into our students. Moreover, any student who comes to us at the beginning of next year and says, outside of the 3,000 that we're helping, that we don't have money, we can't, we're going to say to them, we're going to help you with the first half, but you must help yourself with the other half. Yeah? Any outstanding debt, you must pay the first half of that debt. And we will sign together with you an agreement that you will find ways and means to pay off that debt. And remember, this is outside of the group who qualify for state aid. I'm talking about the lower middle class. Yeah? The ones who qualify for state aid at UJ, the family income is 140,000 rands or less. Right? Anyone above that, the lower middle class, earning between 140 and 250,000 rands a year, that's our missing middle that we all talk about, right? And that is the group that we will be working even more closely with in the new year to ensure that they find ways and means, and that we enable them to find ways and means to pay their fees in the new year. So we do all of these things, not because it is something that we must do. No, we do all of this out of deep compassion. I myself come from a blue-collar, working-class family, yeah, who worked the factories of Port Elizabeth. And so there was no ways I was going to be able to get to university without bursaries. There's no ways I was going to be able to get my doctoral degree without bursaries. And so I, deep inside my heart, have deep experience embedded in me about this difficult challenge and issue. And so I can tell you now that 11,500 of our students who qualify for state aid, they are covered. They're covered fully. On top of being covered, they also are able to come and receive a balanced meal twice a day. They also, and I didn't even mention the buses that we provide to our students. Fact is that thousands of our students live downtown, right? They can't afford the money to go to the Soweto campus because we still don't have enough residences in Soweto, right? They're going to have to spend 800 rands a month on transport, 2 taxis twice a day. And so we've put in place buses to make sure that they don't have to take a rand, a penny out of their pockets, so that they can freely move between our campuses. And so if you're looking for a university that goes out of its way because of our deep compassion and because we know that these young people are transforming not only their own lives but those of their families and their villages. 12,500 graduated this year from this university, half of whom are first generation graduates. Half of them, so just over 6,000 of our graduates this year, first generation. Yeah? And so any student who has difficulty with paying their fees, especially the missing middle, yeah, because the others are covered, especially the missing middle, they must come to us. Come to our student finance, talk their situation over. We have never told them to go away. And so insofar as student fees and those registration and scrapping of debt is concerned, that is our response. Yeah? That we go out of our way to secure access and to fund that access, in particular for the poorest in our nation. And we do it out of duty to our nation. So, turning to the media not being allowed, maybe Mpho and Mike, and also the issue of students taken to cells and the private security, how we mitigate violence, if you like, from them. Yeah, and then Tumi will deal with the question of the SRC president.
Okay, Mike, I don't know if you want me to kick off. Let me do so. On the issue of the media not being allowed in, I mean, for instance, yesterday I got a couple of phone calls. I did 2 interviews here in this building with SABC. So the media that approached us and requested to come in and talk to us. I mean, I did an interview in the morning with Busiso, Lutando, and Wisani from the SABC, and everybody there requested to come on to speak to us or to do some work. We allowed them to come on and to do that. Yes, because people are working on campus, and we've had to manage access to campus. So when people arrived cold at the gates, because what the students were doing is they were phoning media and say, come, we'll give you a show. Okay, and as Herman says, some of them, what did you say, they deserve Oscars or some Emmy awards. So anybody that formally requested an interview, formally requested to come on, we allowed them to come on, and we spoke to them, and we allowed them to go and speak to the students. So let us just follow protocol and make sure that we do the right things, like we've done this afternoon and like we did yesterday. In the evening, we did an interview with, I forget that young lady, SABC again. In the evening, we did that. So we were able and we allowed to do that. On the issue of cells, somebody's going to have to take me to them, really. I am not aware of them. Okay. On the issue of people receiving first aid, because I heard also when I read in social media that people were receiving first aid, we haven't had any paramedics on site today. So some of the stories I cannot corroborate because I do not know where they originate from. I did not see any of that.
Mike, can you think about the staff that we employ? The additional staff that we've employed.
The fact of the matter is that there is a budget which allows a certain amount of security staff on the ground for the safety and security of all those staff and students and visitors that are on the premises. That contingent of staff is not at the level which would be able to be deployed to handle situations such as this. These are the extremities and are out of the ordinary. So therefore staff have to be brought in to assist with this. And they come from our current outsourced security section. We have 2 sections, some that are outsourced, some that are insourced. So the fact of the matter is that these people are the ones that are maintaining security and law and order. As you observed, those that of you that were out at the gate today, the police had their hands full controlling the crowd outside the gate. They just simply do not have enough members, or reported that they did not have enough members to be able to move the crowd or move the cleaners from the library area, thus preventing other children from getting in and those getting out, and asked for assistance. Could we please control what we could control inside so that and move those people off so that they could handle the issue at the gate? Because clearly what we couldn't have is we couldn't have an incursion via the gate because mayhem would have broken out. It is, you will probably have noticed, have deployed video cameras of our own, and we monitor absolutely everything that occurs so that we can deal with the issues of these claims. There was an issue I'd just like to point out shortly before you got here. It was reported in social media that these offices were occupied, that this place had been totally overrun. So it's very difficult to sift the reality from the nonsense and the propaganda. And I would say that possibly people got injured this afternoon or got sprayed with pepper spray. I didn't see any injuries. I certainly saw people getting sprayed with pepper spray. Investigations will follow if there was anybody that got injured or was assaulted in any fashion or format in an unprovoked manner. And I want to just repeat, I haven't seen anything myself, and if there is anything, I will check on it. There's no question of that. It will be thoroughly investigated by the university.
I just want to make the point as well that one of the protocols that I implemented was that we record everything. Yeah, and so the purpose of which is to make sure that not only are we able to monitor what's going on, but also to ensure that as you correctly asked the question, that the security staff that we have insourced from our outsourced companies, that they conduct themselves in the best manner possible. Of course, we had an incident this morning as the personnel were moving the 25 cleaning service workers away from the library and off the campus, where a handful of students were now engaging in a fist fight with these personnel in order to prevent them from moving the cleaning service staff off campus. And again, we will look at the video in order to see and to report and to act on any infringements of the strict protocols that we have in place. Thank you very much.
On discipline.
Sorry, on the issue of discipline and the other three.
Okay. I just want to reaffirm that the university made it very clear from the beginning that there will not be any disciplinary action against staff or students who engage in peaceful protest. The first joint statement that went out reaffirmed that, and the president of the SRC was a signatory to that first statement. Now, you may know that the president is suspended because he chose to go to the media first. But the policy of the university is that we have a responsibility to protect students, to protect staff in matters of discipline, to a point where we wouldn't voluntarily divulge the details of the disciplinary process or charges or divulge their names. So we are unable to divulge their names based on the protocols that have been set to date. But some of the reasons why we had to consider this route, despite our reaffirmation in previous statements, is that there was inciting. They incited other students to engage in violent activities if management is not going to engage with them. And the consequence of that was the damage that we observed of university property yesterday.
And today.
That incitement was captured on camera, where the president of the SRC, in fact, he told us in a meeting a few hours before that event took place, that if we don't go out, he's going to encourage staff and students to engage in violent behavior. And we discouraged him strongly against it. We discouraged him. And we were really disappointed that he would go ahead and do exactly that. So we had to act to protect staff and to protect students.
Just a last round of questions. Any more questions? Last round.
Just for clarity, how many students have been suspended?
We have 5 students suspended today.
Is that like 9 in total?
Is that 9?
No. I'm just correcting the
He's
initial
correcting
figure.
me.
So it's 5 over
Yeah.
It's not 4, it's 5.
ENCA. Ian, Eyewitness News. Any questions?
See from Power again. It's a tweet that I just saw out to you recently. It's a very personal one, I suppose. I just wanted to get your thoughts. You know, somebody says, as I'm tweeting some of the things he's saying, they say it's very sad to see a former activist then ban protests at his own campus. I just wanted to get your thoughts on just because you can't escape, speaking about.
No, I think it's a interesting point, and people are entitled to their opinions, and that makes us such a great nation that we can talk at odds with each other, but we always come together in the end. So my response to the observation is that for 2 weeks we have had activism on the campus, and we have bent over backwards, and so I've not banned any protests. What I've done with my team is to move cleaning service staff off the campus. That's what we have done. We've not moved students off the campus. Let's be very clear about that. Yeah. So students have not been removed from this campus. But what we have done is we've taken disciplinary action against an initial group of 5 students, right? Please keep in mind that we have 42,000 undergraduate students and 7,000 postgraduate students. We have 250 postdoctoral fellows. We have 1,100 permanent academic staff. We've got 1,600 temporary academic staff. We have 2,000 support staff. We have visitors on our campus in the thousands on these 4 campuses at any point in time. And right now, it is exam time. Right now, it is exam time, right? We cannot have a situation where there is no rule of law at the university. We cannot have that situation when 49,000 futures are at stake. And my job as Vice-Chancellor, together with my team and together with Council, is to create the conditions most conducive. We're trying our best. Yeah? We'd rather fail, succeed. How does the expression go? We'd rather fail, right? Trying, right? Than do nothing. Because if we did nothing today, right, tomorrow would have been the same. Today was an important day to draw the line in the sand in respect of cleaning service staff. And I think we must make a distinction between cleaning service staff and non-protesting security service staff, and the fact that there is no protest among students right now as we speak. It's self-evident to everybody that there's no protest going on right now on this campus or on any of the other 3 campuses of the university. So I've not banned protests. I'm sorry, I've not banned student protests. What I've done is I've locked out with my team, I've locked out cleaning service staff who are hell-bent on creating conditions in this university that will result in me being fired as the Vice-Chancellor, in me being questioned by our nation as to what on earth are you doing, folding your hands, and our children, 49,000 futures are at stake in your university. Thank you very much. Ngiyabonga.
The University of Johannesburg. Rethink, reinvent.